Years ago, it seems a little low. Yeah.
See,
I'm high maintenance.
I run my jogging shoes, not my boots.
Thank you. Years ago, I was able to retire earlier than originally planned. And while I was waiting for my husband to join me in retirement, I took care of my grandson, then age 3, while my daughter worked. And one afternoon, my grandson was in the bathroom for a long time, which was not unusual for him. And eventually he shouted out, "Grandma, I'm done, come wipe my butt." And I shouted back a reminder that he could now take care of that himself. And he said, "Okay." Slight pause, then added, "I just thought I'd check to see if you were in the mood." Now, I did know as someone taking care of a little boy that my mood did matter, and I tried hard to always bring my A game, to be well-rested and emotionally centered, but there was one morning I showed up for duty anything but. The night before had been a national election, and the candidate I had passionately supported did not win. And though I had gone to bed that night, sleep had eluded me. And the next morning, driving to my daughter's, I was lightheaded with fatigue. I felt empty, scooped out, except for the occasional flare-up of anger and bitterness. And the last thing I wanted to do was take care of a 3-year-old, but there he was waiting for me at the top of the stairs, excited to see me. "Grandma," he said, "what are we going to do today?" He was hoping for an adventure, but I was craving oblivion, and that day ahead stretched long. By mid-morning, I couldn't stop thinking about those big massage chairs at the mall. So we headed there, but what those chairs actually deliver, as it turns out, is less a massage and more like an assault. You're jabbed and shoved, and everything from your waist up is rattling, including your teeth. And that was not the adventure my grandson was craving. At home, I turned on the TV and started to make lunch. But I could hear from the other room that my grandson was watching an animated series about a little boy named Daniel Tiger. And Daniel was sad that day because of the results of an election at his school. And Daniel's mother told him he should come sit on her lap. She'd tell him about elections, and she thought maybe she could help him to feel better. I turn off that stove, get in front of the TV, and I am listening. And Mrs. Tiger tells Daniel that after an election, there are people who are happy, and then there are people who are sad and disappointed. But that what Daniel and others just need to remember is there will always be another election in the future, and maybe Daniel will be happier with the results then. And I'm thinking, that's it? That's all she has? Because that wasn't doing anything for me. But now I'm sitting, and the thought of getting up seemed Herculean. And I remembered then that Daniel Tiger is a creation of Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And just days earlier, I had watched a video of Mr. Fred Rogers testifying to Congress some 50 years ago. And he was speaking to them in that clear and calm voice. And Mr. Rogers told Congress that a gift we can give our children is to teach them about their emotions and to help them to learn that no matter what emotions you are feeling, you can still choose the actions that you take. And that once someone really knows that their emotions do not have to control them, they can become the person they want to be. After a bit, I got up to continue to make lunch, and though I was still exhausted, that empty feeling had been replaced by a growing awareness that maybe it was a blessing to be taking care of a little child on such a day. Because as crazy as I knew it was, I kind of felt like good old sweater-wearing Mr. Rogers was rooting for me to push past my anger and bitterness and to make something good happen that day. And there was really only one thing I needed to do. So I had lunch with a sweet little boy, and then we went out, and by God, he had his crazy fun adventure after all. And that night, lying in bed, I did the math. One day down, 1,459 to go. until that next election that Mrs. Tiger promised. I hated that number. But I was also feeling grateful for one really good, occasionally apron-wearing man whose words to Congress reminded me about what I can control and what I cannot. And I knew somehow things were going to be okay. Thank you.
ANNIEWIBORG, everybody. Thank you for starting us off, Annie. It's going to be a great show.